In the middle of February, a month ago, Oprah had a new show live on YouTube, and I am so glad I watched it. She said two things that I really needed to hear that day. That was a Saturday. 2 days before, on Thursday, well, something happened. I had been on the lookout for a whole year. I was looking out for the Greys, Greys. Most people call them the Blues, but I call them the Greys. The pandemic was causing a lot of stress, and I was on the lookout to see if the Greys were coming for me again. And that Thursday morning, there they were. I couldn't think of anything I wanted to do, even though I had a brand new mystery novel to read, and it was the 5th one in a series that I love. There was even an autographed copy of that book. I had specifically bought it from the author, but I didn't want to read it Thursday morning. And I couldn't think of anything I wanted for lunch, even though I had just gotten 10 bags of groceries from Whole Foods. Things that I had ordered the day before that I had wanted. But Thursday morning, I couldn't think of which one I wanted to eat. And then the real tip-off, I wanted to take a nap before lunch. I knew these were signs of depression. I am quite familiar with depression. 18 years ago, I was debilitated by depression. I had been under stress at work, and after a year and a half, one morning, I just couldn't summon the energy to get up and get ready and go to work, even though I had been doing that for 25 years. I just couldn't do it. But I realized I had been shutting down, so I already had made an appointment with a psychiatrist. She told me, Kate, when you're under stress for a long time, well, that's a problem. When you're under stress, a little bit of stress, your brain responds by making chemicals to help you deal with the stress. But when you're under stress for a long time, your brain can't keep up with making enough chemicals to help you. That's when you get depressed like you are. So she suggested two things. One, that I start taking drugs, which would help up the production of those chemicals that my brain wasn't making enough of. And two, to go into therapy to help me find ways to deal with this stress. So doing those two things and ultimately leaving that company helped me get out of the depression I was in. But it was only as I was coming out of it that I was really able to put my fingers on what the depression had done to me. Oh, I knew the great lethargy. That was obvious. But one day, my first clue as to what the depression had done to me was I found myself singing in the shower. And I can't remember the last time I did that. And then my food started to smell and taste wonderful again. And the colors in my world, I mean, it sort of seemed like the world had all gotten washed up and the colors were brighter. And when I went outside, I noticed the sun when its warmth on my face and the breezes. So I realized that the depression had taken all my senses and kind of dampened them down, pushed them down until they were all gray. So that's why I had been on the lookout for the Greys. I had been there and I did not want to go back. So that was Thursday. So Thursday afternoon was better, but I knew this was the beginning. It could be the beginning of something really bad. So I kept on thinking about this on Friday. And then Saturday, I saw Oprah's show on YouTube. Thank goodness I saw that show on YouTube. She told me two things that really helped. The first was that she was looking for joy, the joy that every day was bringing to her. I went, yes, just look at the joy in what every day is bringing. Forget about expectations of what that day could have brought, or especially comparisons to pre-COVID days. No, just look for joy in what every day is bringing. And the second thing she said was, put yourself number one on your to-do list. Okay, I can do that. So after that show, I started planning, what should I do? Number one for me, the joy in my life, it's being with my family. Well, I'm living with my wonderful husband of 49 years. He's a keeper. And we Zoom with our son 3 or 4 times a week, playing online board games, a passion of our son. So I have that joy in my life. I didn't have to improve that at all. But my next passion is storytelling, working on stories like this one, and just telling myself stories to keep them in my repertoire and keeping relating to them. If you keep them fresh, they resonate more and more with you. So I have the family, I have the storytelling, music, the singing in the shower. I needed to have more music in my life. And dancing. I've been taking tap dance lessons for 25 years. And the lessons have stopped, but I needed to get that into my life. So the very next morning, when I put the shade up, I saw the sun was shining. But I didn't just go, the sun is shining. I looked, and it was, as always, coming from the east, straight across the yard past my window, and I could see how the east side of all the trees had that white light of the sun on them. And then I glanced up, and there were icicles. It was the middle of February. We had icicles. But with the sun gleaming on them, oh my goodness, they gleamed much more brightly than the Hope Diamond in the Smithsonian. I mean, the Smithsonian has nice lighting, but they don't have lighting like the sun. Oh, they were brilliant. They were just gorgeous. And as I watched, I could see that the warmth of the sun and the warmth of the air was enough so the icicles were starting to melt just a little. And I followed the drip of water as it slowly made its way down the icicle, then clung to the tip for a little bit until it was big enough and it fell. A few days later, I was eating lunch at my dining room table and I heard a bird song. Not the winter peep, 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 peep. Now, I like those birds that stay with us all year round, but this was a song. I can't do it justice with my voice, but oh, it was glorious. And it wasn't just a 6-note. No, it just went on and on and on and on, serenading me, that lovely little bird. And then more recently, I looked at a branch, again, out my window, because I don't walk in the wintertime. I'm a real wimp about walking when it's cold. But I looked and I noticed that gray-brown branch that used to be smooth now had little nubbins popping out of it, the very beginnings of the leaves. And these days, you look up, some of the trees look fluffy because the leaves are progressing that much. Oh, and then, now, in addition to my husband being my faithful companion, I have Krause's dark chocolate sea salt caramel truffles. I have one a day. You can, on Weight Watchers, you can have anything you want to eat, just not as much or as often. You have to learn to control that. So I lost half of my weight, for half of the weight I wanted to lose, not half of my body weight. Yeah, 20% of my body weight, by the way. Eating one, maybe sometimes two, and one very bad day, 3. But one Krause's dark chocolate, sea salt caramel, truffle. But one day, since Oprah's show, I got it out of its box and I looked at it. You know, it's a lovely shade of brown and it's got a sheen to it. And I turned it and I let the light play on the sea salt crystals and they winked back at me. And then I inhaled the aroma. It was the same smell, the exact same smell as when I opened the door to Krause's candy shop, and the smell of chocolate rushes out to greet me. There it was in my little truffle. Now, maybe your mother, like my mother, told you not to sniff your food, but I'm not sniffing it. I am wallowing in its aroma. Finally, then I will take one of my 3 bites. It's not very big, but if you're really careful, you can get 3 bites out of a truffle. And those tastes explode in my mouth, the chocolate and the soft caramel and those nice sea salts with those tang to it. And I've been paying attention to the feel of it, the smoothness of most of it. But then again, those sea salt crystals, they have that little crunch to them. You can get a lot of an enjoyment out of one piece of chocolate if you put your mind to it and you take time to wallow in all of that. Yes. Now, on Oprah's show, she had a few guests. One of them was Jennifer Garner, who said several things that I really liked. One was, during the pandemic, I always know I am just one step away from a good mood. Her exercise of choice, the exercise that gives her joy is also dance cardio, not tap dancing like mine is. But I went one step towards it. So now, when I'm heading towards the bathroom in my house, there's a tiled hallway, and doesn't work quite so well with rubber-soled shoes, but you get the idea. There's this nice sound. It moves me along faster. It's just wonderful. Now, as I said, my dance classes have stopped, but I have been dancing with this group, Showstoppers, at the Clifton Park Senior Center since 2004. Twice a week, I've been meeting with the same group of women. People have come and go, but there's a core group of us that have been meeting for all that time. And when the classes stopped last March, a few months later, I said, why don't we meet on Zoom? And we can talk, and we have some videotapes we could dance to. So that happened, but then the classes started back up, the Zooming stopped. But when the classes stopped again in December, I don't know why, but I didn't think of starting up the Zoom meetings again. But after Oprah's show, that next Friday, there we were, meeting at 10 o'clock on Friday to talk together. We spent a lot of time talking about what we were doing about our hair. That was, and then dancing together. So since that Oprah's TV show, I have been making an arsenal of weapons to fight the grays. I've been bringing bringing activities into my life to add joy to it. I've been wallowing in the joys that each day brings in nature, in my food. And I've learned to take one step, a dance step, towards a good mood. Now, Jennifer Garner, the actress who was the guest on Oprah's show, said 2 other things that I really like. One was, when you feel overwhelmed, go gentle on yourself. I'm pretty sure we all have been feeling overwhelmed from the pandemic. And go gentle on yourself. That meant to me, give yourself a little grace. If you make mistakes, and I've been making more mistakes now. They talk about COVID brain. Just go, it happens. Go gentle. Give yourself some grace. We're all just muddling through this as best we can. And the final thing that I want to share with you from what Jennifer Garner said is, she said, reach out, seek joy, and then share it. I hope that's what I've done tonight by sharing this story with you. Thank you very much.